I've been spending a lot of my time recently in the vicarage garden, digging vegetable plots, planting things, flowers, remodeling bits of the garden. And it's been wonderful to be outside and to have this beautiful garden to be able to enjoy. But it is surrounded by trees, which is both a blessing, but also means there's no views. And one of the things that I miss is not having a view. So I've been walking most days somewhere around Desborough, and really enjoying that whole process of learning new footpaths and a new landscape. And it's becoming familiar, the shape of the hills, the different parts of the things that we can see in the landscape around us. But it's also been making me realise that actually I long for some of those bigger landscapes. It has been an incredible privilege of my life to be in some amazing landscapes around the world. I've been to so many different parts of the world. Some of you will know that I'm a regular in the Alps, and I love the mountains, both in the summer and the winter, but also more exotic places. So going to Vic Falls, what an amazing experience that is. Some of the incredible tropical beaches I've been to in Africa or Asia, the jungles of Zaire and Central Africa, amazing places. But it's also making me realise that whilst I long for those things, I long for those views, it's reminded me of a quote from a guy called Marcel Proust, who said this. He said, "The real voyage of discovery is not in seeing new landscapes, but in having new eyes." And in some ways, Jesus says the same thing, doesn't he, when he talks about having eyes to see and ears to hear. You see, we all have lenses. You may not wear glasses, but we all look at the world through the lenses of our culture, of our family, of our upbringing, of our personality. We all look at the world in certain ways, and often that's very blinkered. It cuts things out. We see things we want to see. We see things that are in the sort of shape of how we like them, but not always necessarily how they really are. Paul says in Ephesians 1, chapter 18, verse 18, he says, "I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened." The eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know, and he then says two things. So your eyes of your heart enlightened, so you may know, firstly, the hope to which he has called you, and secondly, his incomparably great power. So the eyes of our hearts, the different way of seeing, the different eyes that Jesus talks about, actually to see two things, to see hope and to see the power of God. And so when in a time like this we can't travel, we can't see the further landscapes, our horizons in some ways are very much shrunken in, aren't they? Actually, maybe the call for us is to say, what lens am I looking at the world through? What new eyes do I need to see? What new eyes do I need to cultivate, to develop, to begin to see things differently? And so my prayer for us is that we learn to see things anew, and that we learn to see ourselves with new eyes. We see ourselves as being people who are deeply, deeply loved by God. We see that for others, for our neighbours, for our family, for our friends, that these are people who are cherished and loved by God. And also that we use those eyes of hope to look at this situation, that we are people who are people of hope, who have a hope way beyond anything this world offers. And we know the power of a God who created all things. So may you know that power. May you know that hope. May you have new eyes to see yourself, to see all around you, to see your life in the way that God sees it. Amen.